Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of One Take because life has no rehearsal. And today I am absolutely honored to bring Rosemary Ravinal. So, Rosemary is one of the main names in Miami on PR, actually, more than Miami. It's international. She's absolutely known as a PR maven. She also pivoted really hard into the Zoom industry when we all went through this, and she even invented one of the famous things in the Zoom industry, the Zoom index. So, without further ado, let me welcome Rosemary. Uh, Rosemary, thank you very much for joining us. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you, Marcelo. The pleasure is mine. And by the way, let me just correct you on the Zoom index is actually called the Zoom score.
Oh, the Zoom score. I'm very
Yes.
sorry. Yeah, it's one of. Plus, I'm really bad with names, so it's what it is. So Rose, you've seen I don't know how many changes, and everybody our age has seen I don't know how many changes, but at some point, and you've pivoted by the way in many careers too. I mean, PR and then
hmm
Zoom,
hmm
public speaking. You teach people how to speak, but everything has a start. And we went through my own start, for example, in the business. What was that moment that really defined the modern Rosemary and her career? Just tell us a bit
Yes.
more about it.
Yes. I need to go back to my childhood because one thing that I speak about as a coach and public speaker is that there was a time when I couldn't speak at all because I was traumatized by my arrival in this country in the United States as a Cuban exile. And I was placed in boarding school for several years. But during that time, I became emotionally really disturbed to the point that I started to have the separation anxiety, and I was unable to speak for several years. I actually went silent. When I emerged out of that trauma phase, I was able to speak English without an accent, but I stuttered terribly. And that was really a seminal moment because the very disfluency of stuttering is what propelled me into public speaking and broadcast and communication and public relations. And I'll give you a fast forward on that. It was such a challenging period in my life that I went into the written word. I became uh, a writer. I wanted to study journalism. I was editor of every school paper, college paper, etc. But I still had a very pronounced stutter, which I tried to hide. Therapy didn't do me very much good. I had to do a lot of sort of self calibration, trying to find words that I could say comfortably, know how to do breathing properly, breathe into a phrase, and all kinds of techniques which have now really been established as this therapy. But it was my real pivotal moment was when I had to interview. I had to complete a coursework that required me to do radio broadcasting. And it was the WBAU of Adelphi University in Garden City, New York. And I had to actually complete an interview with the college president. So I had to speak into a live microphone. And I remember that moment, how I perspired and I trembled and I said, I can't stutter into this microphone. I have to do it perfectly well because this was at that moment life or death. And I
Wow.
did it. And I did it. And that way, remember the feeling. Now we're going back 50 plus years. It was as clear in my memory as it was then, that it was such a moment of triumph to say, yes, I can do this. And maybe the microphone is my instrument for actually releasing this or breaking this impasse that I have. I can do this. Now I know that I can. So let me continue. And so that then opened the door for my doing on camera work. And then eventually, even early in my career, I started to do broadcasts, some public affairs programs, some local radio, and eventually ended up being a commentator, contributor for MSNBC during its first couple of years when they were trying to feel their way and find their audience. I was the first Hispanic contributor sitting around the table, with people like Katie Couric talking about the news of the day. And that live television experience was also really fundamental because this is that one-eyed monster of the camera live, no second chances. And
I
that
know.
was
I
to
would
me,
be scared out of my mind to be on live television.
Hmm.
Scared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the kind of feeling that I remember I had somewhat of a similar visceral experience when I did a zip line, in the jungle of Costa Rica. It was like one of
Oh, I
these
did that.
magnificent zip lines, and I remember going out a little bit and then getting some speed, looking down and saying, "Well, one or two things can happen. Either I'm going to get to the other side, or I'm going to die." Very simple. So it was a similar experience of either I'm going to do this broadcast correctly or I'm going to die and never do this again. So it was that kind of jolt into overdrive that showed me that it was really in my mind and that I could overcome it. And I use that experience as really the proof of lived experience with people who are challenged to speak as in public or to express themselves. And it doesn't necessarily mean they have a stummer, a stutter or a stutter, a stutter or a stammer. They may have a heavy accent, or they may just have other blockages that keep them from speaking their mind.
So that's, I mean, if first of all, it's impressive. Second, if you listen through it, what we're seeing is radio, live television, public speaking. You've actually been present at creation in many industries. Um, One of the things, and this is very common, I mean, like everybody has the same cliche, right? Oh, yeah, the only thing that is constant is change. And, there's good change, there's bad change, and then there is the, oh my God, what did happen? Change. Tell me about yours, because you've seen some radical changes in the last, I guess, 3 years,
Yes.
maybe
Well,
four.
even before that, I mean, the profession of public relations, which is, I guess, I consider myself fundamentally a public relations professional. That's sort of the cornerstone, and that gave me, a very, very, very deep sort of path into other areas, all related. But there was always a fundamental principle of ethics and of being a true bona fide communicator with all of the bells and whistles that come with it. And one of
Right.
them is fundamentally truth, right? Really putting out information that is truthful, that is in the public interest. But what I've seen over the last few decades is an erosion of that, and more of a playing with people's brains. And social media's entry into the picture just really took it in a different direction. So that the having the purity of message is very, very challenging these days. So I'm no longer really in public relations, although the concept of message crafting and really understanding what an audience needs to receive from you, that's fundamental to really organizing information correctly and
Mhm.
with a sense of purpose, intention, and destination being the person who needs to hear it, receive it, read it, with their best interests in mind, right? So you're providing a service of sorts, right? It is in service of people who are your audience. But in the last few years, certainly since 2019 and the beginning of 2020, when the lockdown started, I recognized that this medium of video and doing video from anywhere was really going to be the way we would do business going forward, and that people were ill prepared and just didn't have a sense of fundamentally the technology. How do you work these gadgets? How do you do audio? How do you frame yourself? How do you do proper lighting? How do you dress? These are all aspects of the Zoom score, by the way, which is 10 points, 10 factors that together comprise what we're seeing here, which is a professional video presence, where the end goal is to be as close to human as possible.
Right.
Right? That's what I always say. So I'm looking at you right now through the lens, which will hopefully give you a sense that I'm actually looking at your eyes. Obviously, I'm not.
Yes.
Right? So it's a sense of how do you work the technology? How self-aware are you when you're in this environment as to how you're being perceived at the other end? So people were just unprepared to deal with how to conduct business, not as usual, but in a different form, but to try to continue to keep the wheels moving and live some kind of normalcy of routine and of engagement with other people through this medium. And people really were freaking out. There was a sense of, no, I can't turn on the camera. No, I look horrible. There was this kind of it's immersion in a world that was so foreign. And so what I tried to do was to break it down so that people could understand, yes, anyone can do it. Two, you don't need to have expensive equipment or take, very complicated courses. But a lot of it is common sense because everything here is real estate. Everything you see in my shot is real estate that speaks to who I am, what I stand for, and what I intend to do during this time together. So it's an organized composition. It is a well lit sort of image of me as someone who is sincere and engaged with you in conversation. So all these things people needed to relearn as to how they used to do it in person, right? You go walk into a meeting, certainly you walk into an interview for a job. Those first 7 seconds are what establishes the impression that that person will have for quite a long time. And as we know, it takes much more effort to try to undo that negative first impression if that's the way it goes. So why waste it when you have control over how you come across? And so it just takes a few preparation, like anything else, preparation, even what you wear, how you light yourself, where you're
What is your
situated.
color shirt? Mainly because one of the members of the board of Your Gray Matters told me, please, no t-shirts.
No, no, t-shirts are not, I mean, unless it's your trademark, again, if it represents who you are, then so be it. Right? I mean, there's no shoulds. The only I think constraints are, is it really true to who you are and what you stand for and what you're there to do, to achieve, or to provide to the people at the other end? That's all. So that what I call all these pixels around me are real estate that we can take and use to our advantage to complement, accentuate our message. So, for example, when I work with architects who want to step up their ability to communicate their proposals to clients, I say, why are you in front of a white board or a white wall? Have examples of your work behind you. It's always a testament to your talent and your skill. So everything around us is really real estate that can be used to boost our credentials.
And it's a harrowing experience, by the way. I mean, before COVID, when I was working, for McCann, for Conan Building, I once counted them. I've probably given through the world uh, at least 400 conferences, at least. From really big stuff, like, a couple of thousand people, to tiny stuff. Maybe you speak to, like an advisory board or something that's only like 10 people. I've given seminars to our own media people. The transition to Zoom was hard.
Hmm.
Actually, my two favorite pictures from two Zooms are with an ex-business partner, Aria, and her two kids climbing over her. I loved it because it really showed
Yeah.
that, it
Uh-huh.
was a friendship thing, right? And then the same thing with another friend of mine from Miami-Dade College. He now lives in Atlanta. We had a Zoom the other day, and his two kids were climbing over him, and I absolutely loved it. But that is a friendship thing, right? Professionally, you wouldn't want it. So when you developed the Zoom score, you did two things. One of them, you gave people an objective way to measure how they were looking in Zoom.
Hmm.
And notice I haven't worried too much about mine. But the Zoom score did give people an objective way to evaluate what they were doing. And then the second one is, I think, and I think we discussed your Zoom score while you were thinking about it ages ago. We had a talk about it. Um, it really set you apart at that moment as intellectually able to combat Zoom and win. It set you really apart, like nobody else was doing that, which I thought was a brilliant move. So tell me more about how the Zoom score changed both, your life and your business, because evidently you've done really well after the first rocky few months during COVID.
Yes, yes. In fact, I was looking at my video archive from 2020 of Of course, every Zoom meeting was recorded. And I look at myself and I say, I was a novice too. I learned a lot during that time. And I immersed myself as well in understanding not only the technology, Marcelo, but the color theory. What does color say about us? What are design principles that we can use in composing our shot, and how do we curate our backgrounds and in a way that it elevates our profile? How do we then use virtual backgrounds successfully with green screen so that we have a clear, crisp rendering of our image in front of it? How do we work with aspects of time management, keeping people's attention, engagement? How do we conduct a meeting on Zoom or Teams or whatever platform that has the efficacy that you would have in an in-person meeting? They're not the same types of meetings, right? How do
Yeah.
we present ideas? How do we sell ideas? How do we sell proposals to prospects that way? How do we persuade using this medium? And the ground rules have changed entirely, and people were still using the same playbook as before. So it was just a whole transformation. I was learning as I was teaching people how to do this, because to me it was a fascination with everything from the importance of eye contact to gestures, to head nods, to hand gestures, to everything that speaks not only with words but with the nonverbal aspects of communication.
No, that's great. So, and you've been through this. I've been through this. Actually, I went through this 2 days ago. I got a call from a guy who's got like a recruitment company. Would I be interested in a full time position? Blah blah blah. It's at a certain age, you know how difficult it is. So let's say, and I've done this also. Let's say you're standing with a CEO, a CMO. Those guys are, considering several candidates. They always use two phrases, which to me are deadly, of course. And in your gray matter, we consider them anathema, which is, we need new blood. I didn't know, like, are we vampires now? And then, of course, the famed, oh, they're digitally native. And of
Oh,
course, the
digital
answer to
native.
that,
Oh, okay. I thought you
oh
were
yeah,
also going to
digital
say.
native.
I thought you were
Yes.
going to say you're overqualified. You didn't hear that one?
Oh no, no, yeah. Actually, I haven't heard you're overqualified that much. I have flat
Mm,
out heard you're way too expensive.
mm.
That's what I've heard. And you know what? Fine. It's great. My car is too expensive too. And it's a great car. So, and it does 151 on the top end. So, yeah, I'm capable of doing that. But yeah, I've heard that. But the digital native thing, like, and that's supposed to make him, somehow superior. So, what would you tell? And we talked about it. We've had all sorts of answers, which I'm going to make into a video the moment I have time. Um, what would you tell a CEO, CMO about what Irving Plonsker calls POA, people of age?
I would prefer to call them what Chip Conley has coined as wisdom workers. The word wisdom,
That's
really,
great.
right? Wisdom workers, because the word wisdom you cannot buy. You cannot go to school for wisdom. Wisdom is that the is part of the, I guess, the components of that very coveted EQ, the emotional intelligence, that is now considered the part of the soft skills that is more desirable for C-suite leaders, because companies are recognizing that technical skills can only get a company so far. You need to be able to mobilize and inspire an organization towards a goal. And that
Very good.
requires the emotional intelligence and the soft skills, of which communication is an integral part. So,
Right.
what I put it this way: I turned 70 a few weeks ago, and I thought it was like, you know,
Feliz
uh,
cumpleaños.
I'm embracing it. Do we have a choice? Again, it's like on that zip line, right? Either I go all the way to the other end, or I die. So
Exactly.
it's there's a I'm embracing it, and I'm very proud and happy to be where I am. But my last corporate position, at a major Spanish language television network where I was head of public relations was at age 63. They hired me because they needed someone with the wisdom, with the ability to manage complex personalities and to finesse through a lot of discord, uh, and to be able to do it with grace and to do it with results and solutions. So I was very happy to be brought in. That I knew that was going to be my last hurrah, for a limited term to get the ship in order. And I have to say, I felt as comfortable in that role as I would have felt 20 years ago or more, because I knew where I stood. I knew what had to be done. And I also knew that it wasn't coming in with ideas or a specific way of doing things. It was understanding the environment and finding the best that would be available within that environment. So it's working with the existing resources to make
Right.
everyone feel like they were participating in a solution, that they were being served, that they were being included. Because nothing really fractures an organization more than people not being heard, not being given a voice.
Yeah, for all my cynicism, I totally agree with that. It is important that
Good,
everybody
good,
in
I'm
the team.
glad.
No, because I'm cynical about it.
Uh-huh.
And I've always been cynical about it, by the way, since I was 20. So,
Hmm.
this is not new. However, yes, you're absolutely right. It is important that everybody in the team feels that they contribute to the team positively, and you're there as a team leader to reinforce what is good and to subtly get anything that is bad out of the way, bad habits or whatever. So, Rosemary, thank you very much for participating. I really appreciate it. And, like, I wish you tons of success, not only in your
Thank you.
70th year, but also with your Zoom score and everything you've done to really systematize the Zoom culture that we all have to suffer. So, thank you. Thank you very much.
It's been my
Thanks
pleasure.
again.
It's been my pleasure. You can invite me back anytime.
And I will. I will. As we progress with our podcast, definitely we will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.